That is, and I might just note that it is regrettable that the amendment put forward by my other colleagues in relation to the Class K payments was ruled out of order, because I think it is an important issue, but perhaps there may be a chance within the section to discuss it, even if an amendment is ruled out of order. Amendments 2 to 7 relate to they're very small changes, but I hope the Minister might agree important issues that arise in terms of inconsistency with the language in this new proposal in relation to self-employed persons and the services or supports they may seek to access in relation to social protection services, and some of the previous language. The Minister will be aware that we have in times discussed with her the importance of a positive approach to activation. And I think there are common views that we have in relation to that there should be a positive perspective whereby we are ensuring that people are offered appropriate employment, training or educational opportunities, and that we ensure that each person individually in their interaction with Intrio and with the social protection or activation services of the state is appropriately supported and given choices and options. Again, I'm concerned that within this section as worded now, there's a slightly more punitive language, and a language based what I believe could be construed as a narrowing of the options for the individual, which is a little bit inconsistent with what we have previously had and used in relation to that. Perhaps that's intentional or perhaps it's inadvertent. Specifically, I talk about amendments 2 to Amendment 2 is around the deletion of these sections. That's really around perhaps an opportunity the Minister may wish to put forward to, if she doesn't wish to accept my amendments, submit a revised version of those 2 sections at report stage when this bill comes through to report stage. Amendment 3 suggests that rather than, as I will pull it up here, rather than the language of refusal or failure to attend activation meetings related to job seekers' benefit being the lead point, perhaps it might be a more positive and constructive engagement if we talked about activation services related to job seekers' benefit and self-employed, which may well include situations where persons do not engage, but do include situations where they do engage. And while the payments are represented in different sections, the activation supports are almost identified primarily almost through the question of refusal or failure to attend. And I think, again, there is a danger of a climate, which I don't think we should be pushing forward, of distrust or indeed some degree blaming of persons in relation to that. So I think that language, a positive framing, activation services, would be better. Number 4, again, suggests the deletion of that section with the hope that the Minister might put forward an alternative framing or phrasing of it. And these are some of the key things. In relation to number 5, we are looking at lines 33 to 34. Again, rather than simply requiring a person to whom it is to be given to do one of the following, that basically may make available to the person. Again, I am trying to promote a positive, support-based approach to activation, rather than an approach which assumes that citizens must be prodded and poked and reluctantly forced to engage. That is not my understanding of most citizens. I think most people are very keen, and indeed some of these in the self-employed section we're coming through have shown in the past their eagerness to work, their eagerness to engage, and I think that should be our primary assumption in how we speak to them. More important, though, perhaps, Minister, and more specific, is the phrase here in line 42. Attend for or submit to an assessment of that person's education, training or development needs. Now, attending for an assessment of your educational training or development needs may be one thing, and that is an important and appropriate requirement. That is the requirement that is put on others who engage with the social protection system. But the phrase submit to gives another concern, because what do we mean by that? Does it mean that any questionnaire that relates to any aspect of your development, your personal training, that must be answered, it must be submitted to? Does it take away, how do we know, for example, that it is a necessary and proportionate assessment that is taking place? If a person finds an assessment, for example, to be intrusive or to be inappropriate, where is their recourse? Submit to is a dynamic whereby you, because you have come now and are having contributed in the past to the state, no doubt in all the different ways that people contribute, you are now coming and being required to submit to whatever may be assessed. And there are real concerns here, Minister. You know that there are concerns. We'll come to them shortly in relation to Amendment number 7. And that's why I wanted to explicitly say, a new section, that the signing of a personal progression plan should not be considered a requirement in terms of either attendance or submission to assessment. We know, Minister, that there have been situations, we have heard of them, we've heard them testified in the Social Protection Committee, where people have been sat in rooms told that they must sign off on a plan that has been written for them, in many cases by private companies contracted by the state, and that they must agree that this is their route, this is their progression, this is what they want to do with the rest of their life and the rest of their energy and what they have. And those plans have sometimes been held, the signing of those. We know there were issues, we debated it over 2 years ago, Minister, whereby persons were being told that they needed to sign the plan in relation to show that they had attended. And the fact that they were there in the room, willing to engage, interested in discussing options, was not enough if they did not submit to or agree to sign a specific personal progression plan. In many cases, and I know there are public personal progression plans from Intrio services and others, but in those cases, personal progression plans put together in some cases by a private company. And we know internationally there have been concerns about the practice of a large number of persons effectively coming out with very similar, if not identical, personal progression plans that direct them towards particular routes that may not reflect, in fact, the full range of options for the person. In that regard, Minister, we also know from our hearings at the Social Protection Committee meeting that in some cases, though not all, the Department has looked, when determining payment to these private companies, that the signing of the personal progression plan has been looked at as one of the clear ways in which a company may effectively claim that it has supported somebody or delivered services to them. And I think it's really important that that should not be the case, and I think that's an inappropriate financial incentive and pressure to be putting on a private company in order for it to put pressure on vulnerable persons. So again, Minister, specifically in relation to those, I'm wondering, and to me the priority, though others I know they may seem to be technical, but they are about the ethos of the state, the ethos of the engagement. But number 6 and number 7 are really important, and I hope that you might be able to consider taking them on board.
Thank you, Senator.